By the end of this one, you might have a couple kids, a nice house, and wonder how the fuck you got here. Because you're in the 30s on the Extended Play podcast.
It's the Extended Play podcast with Ian Tank. We are a music discussion show without the hipster snobbery. Today, we're back with another edition of our EP 100. Yeah. Graphics. I'm not going to do graphics.
By the way, I was thinking, we since it's coming up, I need to task you to have, there needs to be a celebration when one of our number ones comes up.
Oh, yeah, true.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. We're not quite there yet.
No, but we're getting close.
There. Yeah. The EP 100 is the countdown of the top 100 albums of our lifetime as decided on by us using a very highly scientific method that we described in the very first episode of this countdown, which I'll link to over Tank's head over there. If you want to go back and watch that, give that a try. We've got, what, 6 episodes now in the can. Does that math work out right?
That sounds about right. 30s, 20s.
Yeah.
10s. Yes.
Yeah. We're going to count down today numbers 40 through 31. So buckle up. Again, we keep saying this. Lots of great albums in this list. They only get better. They only get better.
It's like the basic concept of a countdown is so exciting when you're the one doing it.
It really is.
Yeah.
And again, like going through the process of listening to the full albums again has just been so incredibly rewarding and just reminds you. I mean, it sounds really trite, but it reminds you how much you love music. Mm-hmm. Truly. I'm just sitting down here right outside the doors of the Extended Play Studios with the cans on or not, or cranking it up. Actually, that's what I was doing today. And I've got vinyl for a few of them. So I'm just blasting it. And it's just such a rewarding experience. So,
yep. And the shorthand, remember, if this is the first one you're watching, which welcome.
Yeah. Welcome.
Is basically if we were going to give a stranger 100 albums to listen to. If they were starting from nothing and they had the last 40 years to work with, and we're like, here, take these 100, not knowing what they like ahead of time, just saying these are the 100 best.
Absolutely. And we'll try to, in our countdown, give you a reason. If you're not familiar with the albums, give you an in, right? We'll usually mention some highlighted tracks or what it sounds like. So it's hard to know. This is what I was thinking about beforehand is you just don't know. We don't have that good a grip of who our audience is. We know the age range, but we don't necessarily know their taste. So I find myself walking this fine line. This is kind of how the sausage is made, for the show, which is trying to not be a pretentious douchebag and to say all these things. Which is tough for me just generally.
I mean, just look at them.
That's default. That's like my default mode. But you know what I mean? Like, not making people feel like they're dummies and like talking down to people, but also not talking over people's heads. So let us know in the comments if we are doing either. And we'll try to shift things because we care about you, the extended family. We do. Yeah. Leave us comments, like, and subscribe, please. We're approaching the 100 subscriber mark on YouTube, which we're really excited about. It sounds very small and it is in the large YouTube scale of things, but for us,
it's something.
We
do it for the love, not for the views.
That's right.
But maybe we should get a little cardboard.
Oh, that'd be good.
YouTube play thing, that we'll have to make our own because it's gonna be a while before they send us
that platinum one or whatever. Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's get into it. The way it works is we're going to count down backwards from 40 to 31, and whoever ranked it higher typically is the one who talks about it, but we'll both contribute. So that means I get to start with number 40, which is Straight Outta Compton by NWA. And I'm sure you're looking at me and thinking, this guy knows.
Right.
This is the authority on Straight Outta Compton. Right. You should one look at the yellow cardigan and you're thinking, I wonder what this guy has to say about early hip hop.
Finger on the pulse of 1980s LA.
Nevertheless, it's what you're going to get, folks. Sorry, that's what you're getting. So, released in 1988, this was a blind agree, which means Tank and I independently both thought this should be on the list after consulting our various lists in our own. Yeah. I ranked it 34 and Tank ranked it 58. So and by the way, a little preview, there's some giant gaps.
There's a big one coming up.
Both ways too, actually, where I rank something super high and he ranks low and vice versa. So anyway, Straight Outta Compton, 1988, NWA, 13 songs, an hour long. This was a strange re-listen. I stand by mostly my ranking. I think on a re-rank, I would do it maybe more towards where you're at 58. Because I think in my head, and we've told ourselves that we weren't going to do this, which is include cultural impact in our ratings. I think I got caught up in that a little bit. In how sort of impactful, I hate that word.
But it's, I mean, influential.
Right. As far as starting a whole genre of gangster rap, essentially. And the song Fuck the Police just generally, and the cultural impact of that. So, because on a re-listen, man, the production is weird on this album.
Yeah. And there's some bad songs.
There's some bad songs.
I mean, something to dance to.
The closer is rough.
Who sequenced that album?
I don't know. Dre says, I read an interview that Dre hates this album. Like he hates the production.
Yeah.
He hates the quality of it. He's like, there's songs I wouldn't have included. And I can see that now listening back again. There's lots of live instrumentation, which was a thing in the 80s, like a blend of the break beats and then actual live guitar. But a lot of it sounds so cheesy and just like half-ass.
Yeah.
That being said, I wanted to share so highlights of the album. Obviously the lead track, Straight Outta Compton, Fuck the Police. I really like Dope Man. 8 Ball is fucking great.
Yeah.
But just a great song. This is their second album, by the way. Technically, the first album was like cobbled together. There's a bunch of tracks. It's called NWA and the Posse. There's a few tracks where they're not even on it. It's anyway. So some other fun facts about this album, other than it just basically invented the genre of gangster rap. Ice Cube and Ren wrote all the lyrics for this album. Yeah. So Dre did not write any of the lyrics. He didn't even, he helped produce it, but DJ Yella did a lot of the production on this album.
Okay.
So Ice Cube and Ren wrote Dre's verses and Eazy-E's verses. Eazy-E didn't write any verses on this. Yeah. And there's even a song on it where Eazy says Dre writes the lyrics that I say or something.
No, Ice Cube writes rhymes that I say.
That's right. Ice Cube writes the rhymes that I say.
I wonder on Easy Does It if it's him then.
No, it's not. Maybe some of it is, but I know he contributed to that. Yeah.
Wow.
And I guess it was just a thing. I watched an interview with MC Ren who was just like, people loved his voice. They loved his delivery. They loved his presence.
Yeah.
And so that was enough. And it wasn't a thing. Like,
but how hard it would have been to write some of that stuff.
I don't know. It's crazy to me that he's revered,
Yeah.
I feel like he's revered.
People don't pay attention.
No. And the DOC wrote a bunch of lyrics on this too.
Okay.
Who underrated sort of spin-off was the DOC, who had one album before he got in that accident. And now he can't.
I feel like the peak of all these guys was after this.
Yes.
Because then you had 100 Miles and Runnin' from NWA after Ice Cube was gone.
Right.
And then
for Zaggin.
Yes. But a lot of the heat back and forth produced some really good stuff, especially from Ice Cube.
Absolutely. Yeah, totally agree. NWA is really short-lived in the grand scheme of all of this stuff. So, the tropes of skits like them being in court and a drive-by and all that kind of stuff. Some really, the misogyny. So there's a few personal stories I want to tell really quickly about this. One, I had the tape and I had it dubbed from someone, maybe you, I don't know who it was, but I had Easy Does It on one side and Straight Outta Compton on the other side.
Nice.
The problem being, I believe it was a 60-minute long tape and this did not totally fit. It must have been a 45-minute long tape because mine cuts off at Dope Man. Like it gets through like not even the first verse of Dope Man and then the album ends. So I was very unfamiliar with the last 3 songs on this. Anyway, so that was a funny thing. So the misogyny, the part of it, I do remember bringing that dub tape over mutual friends of our house when we were a little kid and his mom catching us and being real. And I got kicked out. Like, you have to go home because we don't want you playing NWA in this house because it's too dirty.
Huh.
Yeah. Random that I was the bad influence. Again.
Right.
This guy.
Right.
Bad influence.
Yeah, exactly.
Another funny personal story that I have to mention. Shout out to our boy Z, who had the edited version of this album, which you can still listen to on Spotify. And it's not just edited, it's re-recorded.
Oh, yeah.
With stuff in place of the swearing and the sort of blatant misogyny and violence. It is highlighted by the line from, where is it? I don't remember what song it was, where Eazy-E, instead of saying,
I know what you're going to say.
Yeah, he says, what's the line?
Isn't it dumb motherfucker?
If you want some of this, then you're a dumb motherfucker.
Yeah.
And he says, then you're a stupid dumb sucker. It just comes off so incredibly lame.
I would have loved to have been there for, there was a writing session to come up with the new words.
Yeah. Gosh.
Yeah.
It's crazy. So that's the end of it. Go ahead. If you haven't heard it already, go back and listen to it. It is worth a listen to sort of see the evolution of where this all comes from. But like I said, the beats they didn't age all that well.
No.
Yeah. And the other I was going to say is I always took the sex jokes and the misogyny. It's funny. We were only 12 when this came out.
Yeah.
88, like like right in puberty mode. I took it all as a joke. I didn't take any of this seriously.
No, it's true.
That whole bit about like when there was like essentially like the Satanic Panic, but for hip hop with like Two Live Crew and stuff.
Right.
Like it was going to have some more influence on the kids and how they treat. I never thought to treat a woman like the way they were described.
No, yeah, we never thought it was like an instruction of like.
Right.
I mean, now granted, maybe they can argue it's like, yeah, because that wasn't your culture. And if you were in the culture, you would take it seriously.
Reinforces it, yeah.
But lines like, and then I take the other pussy, put it in the freezer, so I will always have an on-hold skeezer. Like, I'm pretty sure I know I wasn't taking vaginas and putting them in the freezer.
Right. Yeah. So on that note, moving on, number 39, I believe is Tank.
That's correct.
Yeah.
For number 39, it is in a very different direction. It is Ben Folds 5 with their first album, Ben Folds 5. This one was also a blind degree.
Yeah.
Came out in 1995, which is a little bit later than I would have guessed.
Is it?
Yeah, because we would have been in college already.
Yeah, I remember it in college.
Pretty tight bunching here on the rankings. E had it at 49. I had it at 38. So there actually were, it's funny because I go back and I kind of have a routine now if I look at what the singles were on Wikipedia. But I mean, what does single even really mean after the 80s, I guess?
I agree.
Like once you're past where radio is the primary thing.
Yeah. You're listening to all of it.
So, but oddly enough, I think 5 singles here. So Jackson Cannery, Underground, Where's Summer Be, Philosophy, and Uncle Walter. I would guess that if it rings a bell for anyone here, it'd be Underground and Philosophy.
Yes, yeah, they play those on college radio.
Yeah, but Underground was, I think, the hit.
Yeah.
Right? But, again, and it's not like to be a fucking edgelord or something, but this is another album where my far and away favorite songs were not those. So on this one, it was Best Imitation of Myself, which is a great fucking song.
Great song.
The Last Polka, which is also a great song. And Boxing, which is like kind of a somber album closer.
Yeah, I vaguely remember that one.
Yeah. It only sold 195,000 copies.
Gosh, that's crazy.
No, and Whatever and Ever Amen, 1.1 million.
Because of Brick.
Because of Brick, right? So if you put Brick here, I'm sure everything is just swapped. They were essentially identical albums.
Yeah, for sure.
But it's such a quirky album and sound.
Yes.
I don't know that anything like it has come out since.
I don't think you could repeat it.
No, I mean,
it would just be a ripoff.
You could almost argue like maybe Bloodhound Gang or something is the closest, but they're more over the top and they're not musical.
Right.
It's like 90% joke, 10% music.
Yes,
This is 90% music, 10% joke.
Yes, I agree.
Closest comparison, I think, going backwards is Joe Jackson.
For this piano sound, at least.
Piano, maybe even the vocal delivery to some extent.
Okay.
And some of the reviews at the time, some of the not flattering ones were basically like it's a shitty Joe Jackson ripoff.
Yeah.
I don't know. I was wondering what you thought about this because we definitely looked at this and Whatever Never Amen. It was a very, very close.
Yeah.
Which one's better?
Yeah.
The second album might have they certainly had the bigger hits.
Sure.
But I feel like if you go through this track listing, there's really not anything weak. It's a very enjoyable listen.
Yes.
Start to finish.
Yeah. I think the production value is a little lower, which I always enjoy. Like I always like when it sounds more raw, it sounds like they put it together in their basement, sort of. No, maybe not their basement, but you know what I mean? It's clear they got more money to make the next album. So I like the sound of this generally. It's a little less, I mean, it is goofy. It still has that goofy edge to it. And there's a lot, I mean, there's just strange choices all over the place as far as like how the song structures go. And I really like that. Yeah. Like Brick is a pretty straightforward radio
That's
hit,
true.
Right? Yeah. And there's none of that on this album.
No, and it's super piano forward. I think as they moved on, they sort of backed up a little bit because they didn't want to be maybe pigeonholed.
Yeah. And maybe, and like in the piano style in particular, like kicking the stool away, right, and hammering on the piano like Jerry Lee Lewis. That kind of style is more on this record than the second one. Yeah.
So I'm guessing that a fair amount of people watching this haven't maybe checked this out yet. So go check out Ben Folds 5. It's fun. It's easy to listen to. Give it a spin. Moving on to number 38, which is also mine. And this is a Tank exempt album, which is pretty rare at these heights of the countdown.
It is.
And
what does Tank exempt mean?
Thank you for asking. You can go back and look at the first episode to see the more drawn out, painful definition. Basically, we had a huge ass list of potential albums to be on this list, and we went through and picked 100 each. If we both picked it, it's a blind degree. If we But then we also got to pick like 10 or 11 or so that were like, look, I want this on the list. I don't care what you think. It's on the list. Those are the tank exempt or E exempt. And then we filled in the blanks with a bunch we called negotiated, which we looked at the list and said, yeah, that's got to be there. You know, so this is a tank exempt. I don't know if it's the highest one. It probably is, but it does bear the distinction because I did a formula check here in Excel of the largest spread between the two of us for a ranking. So number 38 is REM with Automatic for the People. Number 38. E ranked at number 85.
Yeah. Again, you'd think much higher.
I ranked at number 2.
That's right. That's
number
right.
2.
That's right. That is a gap.
The second best album of my lifetime.
Yeah.
So it's, you know, just a hair away from being the best of all time for me.
And a hair away from not being on the list at all for me.
So this, you end up at 38 when you have a guy saying 85 and a guy saying 2.
Yeah,
so,
which is funny because we've had 2 REM albums already in the top 100, and I rank both of those higher than this. I'm fairly sure.
right.
So yeah, there's reasons.
Yes.
Yeah.
But Automatic for the People, largest gap on the list. The released songs here, and again, it gets kind of hazy as to what release means, although I kind of remember the videos for all these. So REM, I mean, some of them are iconic here. So, well, according to one of us anyway. So the big songs were Drive, Man on the Moon, The Sidewinder Sleeps Tonight, Everybody Hurts, Night Swimming, and Find the River. But since it's my second best album, I feel it deserves the respect of having all the tracks mentioned.
Okay. Go for it.
Yeah, so also there's Try Not to Breathe, New Orleans Instrumental #1, Sweetness Follows, Monty Got a Raw Deal, Ignore Land, and Star Me Kitten, which I believe is Fuck Me Kitten, but you know, they couldn't put that as the title.
Oh man, they have good song titles.
Yes.
They are all over the place.
They are. Now, Sweetness Follows is probably my favorite song on the album. It's personal. It's a thing for me.
Sure.
So I think that might be part of what nudges this to the upper stratosphere, but I guess that's how we all identify the music, right?
Absolutely.
I haven't listened to Everybody Hurts in I don't know how long because I don't need to. It was back when I was really struggling with anxiety and panic and crap in the late 90s, early aughts. If I needed to cry, like if I couldn't get it out, I would sit down and listen to Everybody Hurts. I mean, it's very saccharine, very schmaltzy in a way, but it's also very like bare and authentic.
Absolutely,
Michael Stipe has a way of coming across as genuine no matter what he's doing.
I agree. Yes. He
especially
he has a gravitas to him that, like as a poet. Yeah.
Drive's a beautiful song. Man on the Moon never did much for me.
I don't like that song.
Sidewinder Sleeps Tonight. I never liked. Neither did Peter Buck. Apparently, that's the one that he says he wishes was not on the album.
Okay.
And Find the River. Also pretty deep meaning for me. It's about death. It's about in a beautiful but sad video. You ever seen it?
No, I don't remember it at all.
Basically, guy and a dog heading to a river, and just the dog comes back.
No.
Yeah.
I've definitely never seen it. Wow.
Yep. Gosh. Good but sad.
Yeah, for sure.
Delving into now the random trivia aspect of it. John Paul Jones of Led Zeppelin fame. He did the orchestral arrangements on Drive, Sidewinder, Everybody Hurts, and Night Swimming.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
That's really neat.
Did not know that. The band made most of this music without Stipe present.
Oh.
So basically the other 3 guys came up with ideas. They swapped instruments a lot.
Oh, cool.
They just were trying to, and with no drums.
Okay.
So that they thought drums kind of, I guess, killed the creativity.
Sure.
So they had the skeleton of about 30 songs. Then they gave them to Michael Stipe. And it's like, all right, what do you want to do with this?
Okay.
The rating of it was very well received at the time. This is one of those albums that, well, everyone, you know.
Present company excluded.
Yeah. But 5 stars from Rolling Stone, 96 of 100 on Metacritic. Wow. Even a Pitchfork gave it a 9.3.
That's impressive.
It lost Album of the Year Grammy. It was nominated to The Bodyguard, Whitney Houston.
Oh, as seen in our previous episode about the top selling soundtracks. If you want to see Tank epically fail, music trivia.
Yeah, you can see that pretty much every day, but in particular,
not all of it's captured on camera for posterity.
Thankfully, most of it's not. But I mean, what a fucking... How bad does that look in retrospect?
It really does.
No disrespect to Whitney Houston, but it's not Automatic for the People.
Not the first time Whitney Houston winning something. Oh, no.
Yeah.
Not the first time in this countdown that today where a soundtrack wins a big award.
Yes. So, I mean, obviously, because I ranked it number 2, I think this is about as close to a perfect album as you can get. I don't think there's a whole lot. And I really do think that if you if you push this album back 25 years and put the Beatles name on it.
Oh, interesting.
I think it's regarded like Rubber Soul or Revolver.
Wow, no shit.
I really do.
Okay.
Because like, again, you're never going to have I know it sounds sacrilegious to certain people, but like the Beatles in their time doing what they did with being innovative and making beautiful songs, I feel like REM is basically right there.
Yeah, in parallel.
Yeah, and I think if you take these songs, these lyrics, take these songs, move it back to 67.
Okay.
And I don't think it would seem out of place as a Beatles album,
okay.
honestly.
Okay.
So
I can see that.
So that was number 38.
All right.
Automatic for the People.
Awesome. Number 37 goes over to me, which is Disintegration by The Cure. This we both agreed should be on the list. I ranked it really high. This is my highest ranking so far.
Okay.
Number 8 overall, 76 for Tank. So big gap here as well.
Yeah.
So this is from 1989, 12 songs, 1 hour, 12 minutes long. It's their 8th album.
Wow.
Yeah. Kiss Me, Kiss Me, Kiss Me came before this. So that has, I'm pretty sure that has Friday I'm in Love on it, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah. So very more upbeat album than this for sure. Then comes Disintegration. They do a remix album and then a live album and then Wish in 92.
Okay.
Yeah. Let me get a drink of water here.
Yeah. What were the singles on this again? I remember thinking that I thought there was a big drop off. That's why I gave it a lower rating.
The singles on this are, I didn't write,
Fascination
I'll have to do it.
Street, right?
Yeah. Well, I've got it right here.
All right.
Wait for it. Drop the rest of the records. Got it on vinyl. The singles were Pictures of You, Love Song, Lullaby, Fascination Street.
I love that song.
Yeah. Fantastic fucking song. So, what I wrote down about this on the re-listen was that this is the Cure that people think is the Cure, which is the dark, moody, sort of depressing, lyrically sort of dark and sonically dark as well. This album is it's just very dark. There's literal rain on tracks, a lot of talks about drowning and things like this. This is that version of The Cure. And if you're not into that, or you think it's funny, you kind of poke fun at the goths and stuff like that, I get it. It became a sort of a stereotype, but the quality of the record is just incredible to me. The first song, Plain Song, tells you all you need to know about the rest of the album, in that there's a 3.5 minute long instrumental intro to it, which becomes a theme. Pictures of You has the same thing. There's maybe 5 to 6 songs have incredibly long instrumental intros that set this mood, this very dark mood to the albums. There's a note on the record that says this album was mixed to be played loud, so turn it up, which I thought was really interesting. And you wouldn't think that. Of a Cure record.
Yeah.
But because of the layering, particularly of the keyboards, and I'm not a big keyboard piano guy, in particular in a rock band, you need them here. They take the place of sort of a symphonic element in a lot of instances. A lot of times there's just a general keyboard drone behind the tracks that makes it moody and sad and dark. But yeah, it sounded great loud. It sounded really, really great loud. Yeah.
Like the bass line on Fascination Street.
God, the bass. I wrote that down. That's Simon Gallup. He's one of the few guys that's been in The Cure the whole time with Robert Smith. I don't think maybe he's left, but he's still around. That is a killer bass line. And this bass sound is so cool. Like you can hear the strumming, you can hear the pick on the bass. It reminds me a lot of National Anthem on Radiohead on Kid A. Just menacing and driving and so good. So yeah, a sample of the lyrics to give you some insight is how dark it gets here in Prayers for Rain. I deteriorate, I live in dirt, and nowhere glows. But drearily and tired, the hours all spent on killing time again, all waiting for the rain. I mean, it's pretty bleak. It just is. With the exception of Love Song, which is a beautiful love song.
I mean, I don't know if maybe you mentioned it, but he refuses to play live, right?
Oh, does he?
I thought it was a very personal thing for him, and he doesn't like to do it.
Okay, that makes sense. Yeah, he was about to be married to his longtime girlfriend then, who I believe he's still married to now. So I guess that makes sense. Yeah, I love this. It's a vibe. I play it on rainy days. I can listen to the whole thing straight through every time. And in fact, I find it hard to not listen to the whole thing straight through. Like I don't like to pick up the needle. So that's why I ranked it in the top 10 for me all time, number 8. So anyway, overall for our group, for us, for the show, 37.
All right.
36, also something I ranked in my top 10.
Yes.
Yeah. Which is Either Or by Elliott Smith. This one wasn't E-exempt. This one I brought to the table.
I knew very little about this.
Yeah. I ranked it at number 9 overall, so just below Disintegration, which I stand by. Tank ranked it at 72.
Yeah, and that was after maybe 2 or 3 listens because I knew nothing.
Yeah, but you gave it.
I gave it. I mean,
this is why we work well together. He didn't know anything about it. He didn't even like it probably on the first listen, and then still tried it a couple more times.
Yeah, I mean,
I appreciate that.
Because I think we're to the point now we trust each other's judgment enough where if someone says it's that good, it's like, okay, I must be missing something.
I must be missing. Yeah. Some facts about Either Or. Again, this is where I was really trying not to sound like a pretentious douchebag again.
Elliott Smith, it's tough though.
It is tough. It really is. 1997, this comes out. This is his third album. Roman Candles, 94, self-titled in 95, this in 97, and then Either Or in 98. Then he has one more record before he passes. So 12 songs, 36 minutes. It's pretty tight.
Wow.
Right? And that makes a lot of sense because so all the things you hear about Elliott Smith are the darkness, and people have a hard time not connecting the way he died, which was by suicide, to the lyrics. There's a lot of revisionist history going back and trying to find details and explanations for why he did what he did through the lyrics. And sometimes it works. I think a lot of artists, particularly singer-songwriters, have dark stuff in their lyrics. But I've read a couple books about Elliott Smith. This wasn't a guy that was chronically depressed and a bummer to be around.
Right.
He was generally a good, nice dude who knew how to have fun. So I'm not crazy about that. That being said, there are a lot of there's just a sprinkling of these instances of dark lyrics, but mostly it's pretty positive. It's relationship stuff. It's singer-songwriter stuff, really. What sets Elliott Smith above other singer-songwriters for me is the vulnerability in his voice, very specifically. It sounds like he's about to break half the time, that he's barely holding it together in that the songs mean so much to him. Not that they're necessarily sad and he's going to break down that way, but just that it's just so that he's offering so much to every song. This album goes from sparse solo acoustic stuff to a rich full band. Apparently he recorded every instrument himself.
Really?
Yeah. Which is crazy. He was still in Heat Miser, his first band with like his high school buddies when this came out. So they recorded the last Heat Miser album, then recorded this simultaneously.
It's a terrible name for a band.
Heat Miser?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's terrible.
Yeah, I'm not crazy about it.
No.
So I came to this. So this makes me, I would say this makes me not a pretentious douchebag.
All right.
That I came to this like everybody. I came to Elliott Smith like most people through Good Will Hunting.
Okay.
Yeah. They picked 3. Gus Van Sant was a big fan. This album came out just before he was making Good Will Hunting. He chose 3 songs from this album, 1 song from, I think, the first album, and then asked him to write a song specific for Good Will Hunting, which of course was Miss Misery.
Okay.
Miss Misery, probably his most famous known song. It's only on that soundtrack. It goes on to be nominated for an Oscar and loses to My Heart Will Go On. But the fun kind of trivia bit that a lot of people repeat in reviews is that he did perform at the Oscars, which this sort of mousy looking, bedraggled singer-songwriter, his friends always say like even though he didn't like the spotlight, he infamously did not like the spotlight, he bought like a $4,000 Gucci suit to wear, which is pretty fucking cool. But he had to do like a shortened version, which is weird. They do those like medleys almost. Whatever. Standout tracks. The ones from Good Will Hunting are fantastic. Between the Bars, Angelus, and Say Yes. Miss Misery, again, is not on this. Yeah. So, and again, the spareness. I've mentioned this before. I think we had a Elliott Smith song on the playlist challenge.
Yeah, I want to say Either Or.
That's the album. That's this.
Okay. It's a song on that then.
Okay. So it's some one of these songs is on that. I mentioned it before. I like that you can hear the sound of his hand moving up and down the frets, and you can hear the strings. And the first song apparently was recorded. The first song on this album, which was, wait for it, Speed Trials, was recorded. Most of this was recorded on 4-track or 8-track. Okay. And so not a lot of production work done. A lot of it's just layers of Elliott Smith's own vocals. Sometimes he's doing an entire chorus. Speed Trials was recorded at his own house when his girlfriend was sleeping. And so you can actually, it's quieter. Like his vocals are quieter than the rest because he didn't want to wake up his girlfriend, which is kind of a cute piece of trivia. So I'd recommend, checking out those tracks. Say Yes, I think, is a good door in to Elliott Smith. It's very sing-songy and nursery rhymish. It gives the Beatles connection, which he gets compared to a lot as far as the quality of his songwriting and just the sound of a lot of his songs. It's very evident in the song Say Yes. So
cool.
That's Either Or by Elliott Smith.
At number, 36?
36.
How do we not do the in a row joke on 37?
I don't know. We're slipping.
We're losing our fastball. All right, so that brings us to number 35. And I got the next couple, so buckle in, folks. It's going to be a whole lot of...
That's right. That's right. God damn it. Now I have to time that.
I know. All right. Number 35 is Metallica.
I've heard of them.
Yeah, they're familiar with their work. With the album Metallica, which most of you know as the Black Album. Released in 1991. This was a blind degree. I think even he had to,
absolutely
acknowledge it.
Yeah.
He had it at 59. I had it at 20. My first note here is it's the fucking Black Album. Like what could anyone say, much less me?
Right.
But I mean, you start with it's, again, not so much cultural impact, but just the monstrosity of it. Like I tried to find a current citation of it and I couldn't, so I'm guessing that it shifted along the way, but in the mid 2015 or so, it was the top selling album of the last 25 years.
Wow.
So going back to 1990. So, which is kind of a mind fuck when you think about it. Like, I know it's not speed metal, it's not death metal, but it's not pop music.
No, it's heavy.
Right. Yeah. I mean, so think of all the pop stars in the country.
Right.
It's fucking crazy.
Right. Well, I mean, you've talked about ad nauseum, the fan base and how loyal they are and all that kind of stuff too. Right.
And that I think that they've kind of taken, I remember when we were in junior high and high school, we would see Led Zeppelin shirts all the time. Right. And I think they've become the band that it's cool to like.
Yes.
When normally they would have gotten too old, like the next generation, it's okay to like them.
Absolutely.
So there's sort of an evergreen aspect of it. And you saw we went to the show, like the amount of 12, 15, 8-year-old kids there with their parents.
There were a lot.
So, but in case you forgot, the singles from the album, a song you've probably heard before called Enter Sandman, The Unforgiven, Nothing Else Matters, Wherever I May Roam, and Sad But True.
Wow.
The only dud on this album is Don't Tread on Me. I hate that song.
I don't remember it very well.
It's a jingoistic, don't tread on me, kind of thing. It's
man, that Unforgiven video I watched every time it came on.
So good too.
So good.
In the unedited version, like 15 minutes long.
Yeah, it was great.
But man, just they had the video for one, of course, Man Justice for All, which was controversial, quote unquote. But they really kind of leaned into it with really it's just The Unforgiven. The other stuff is kind of...
I don't think there's much, really. Yeah. I can't think of any.
I think the rest of them were just performance, and then that was the one they wanted to make, I guess, a point with.
Right.
But my favorites are, and it has been for a while now, is The God That Failed and My Friend of Misery.
Those are good.
My Friend of Misery was supposed to be an instrumental, because if you think about it, this is the first Metallica album without an instrumental. They had one on every album.
Okay.
Jason Newsted wrote My Friend of Misery. It was supposed to be
interesting.
The Black Album's instrumental, but I think Bob Rock convinced them, no, this needs to be a song.
Right.
But love that song. God That Failed is great. Through the Never, Struggle Within. Okay, they're not as strong as the other ones, but...
Did they play Through the Never at the show? I think they did.
I think they did.
Yeah.
Yep, that one pops up in the rotation every now and then. It was remixed, so they definitely enter their perfectionist phase here. And one tidbit I didn't pick up till I was researching this, they remixed the album 3 times at a cost of $1 million.
Holy shit.
It is considered one of the best sounding albums ever. It was digitally recorded back when that was a very new thing. And the drum sound, at least in like rock and metal circles, is still considered like the benchmark for this. This is how you want drums to sound on an album.
Gosh, how ironic considering
Lars.
Saint Anger and how...
Yes.
Right.
Yes, which probably all the more reason why it caught as much shit as it did, probably, right? Is to like, look at what you used to be able to do, Pitchfork gave it a 7.7. Just going to put that out there.
For a Metallica album, though.
That's true. I'm surprised it wasn't 2.1.
Right. Yeah. Although now they're super into metal, so they might have to go back and fix that.
I think even that was a remaster review like 20 years later.
Yeah, sure.
I don't know that there's a more contrasting pair of consecutive albums than And Justice for All and the Black Album in terms of musical complexity, production sound, and the overall vibe.
Yeah, for sure.
I mean, you go from this really thin, baseless, bleak, dark,
fat
and proggy 9 or 10 minute, just million different time changes and everything. And you just go to like this sparkling, polished 3 or 4 minute radio friendly
stuff they play at football games.
Exactly. Right. I just saw a new one from Virginia Tech, by the way, and man, we really got to go.
That would be really cool.
Yeah. Oh my God, does that look awesome? So by the time they finished, so the reason why, there's a couple, but primarily by the time they finished touring for And Justice for All, they thought, look, this progressive, epic, long song, we've done all we can do. I mean, you started to see it with Ride the Lightning, Master Puppets, and Justice for All, and they're like, are we going to make another group of 10-minute? Like, we've sort of done it.
Yeah,
and they wanted to get back to their roots in a way. Like, they were fans of Motorhead, Kiss, AC/DC, and it's like, why can't we just make normal, heavy rock songs?
Right.
So... yeah, it was that, and they caught a ton of shit for them. And at the time, I remember like people like, "Oh, use that CD as a fucking coaster." It's like, to this day, it still exists. I mean, if you're in a chat forum, you see people like, "I haven't listened to anything since Master." I'm like, really? Because I often go back into the chat forums of bands I stopped listening to 35 years ago and talk shit. Like you see me in like the fucking Milli Vanilli forums, like, man, ever since Baby Don't Lose My Number, I don't fucking bother. It's the cringiest. I love the band. I love most of the fans, but they have a subsection of just the cringiest basement dwelling. Yeah. Like, let it fucking go, fans.
Right.
Oy vey.
Yeah.
So that's number 35.
All right.
Number 34, Metallica.
Oh.
Master of Puppets.
There you go.
1986. Let me give you one more James here.
Yeah. That was a good pace.
Thank you.
I can do that.
Yeah, it was easier. A Blind Degree as well, released in 1986. E had it at number 69. Nice. I had it at number 10. A lot of soul searching for me on, I mean, because it's the big issues that keep me up at night. But
right. Israel, Palestine.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
Right, the election.
Yeah. Democracy at stake. But Master of Puppets or Black Album. And I had Master of Puppets at number 10, but I'm not mad at how close they are. I really do think they're interchangeable in their greatness. It's just two different kinds of greatness.
Okay.
There really weren't singles per se. I think technically Master of Puppets was a single, but I mean, there's only 8 songs on the fucking album.
That's crazy.
Battery, Master of Puppets, The Thing That Should Not Be. I fucking love that. The song is so fucking heavy. Welcome Home, Sanitarium, Disposable Heroes, Leper Messiah, Orion, and Damage Incorporated. At one point in time, I knew this, but I reminded myself, the album was going to be called Disposable Heroes.
Okay.
Not Master of Puppets.
Okay.
So the album cover, how they have the dog tag hanging from across and the helmet hanging on one, was because it was going to be Disposable Heroes.
I see. So they just kind of combined it with the actual...
yeah, which maybe the marionette stuff came in later. I don't know. If you're watching this, I'm sure you're familiar, and Master of Puppets alone had a big kind of cultural renaissance with Stranger Things and a whole nother generation realizing that it's, okay, I haven't heard stuff like this before. I've always told people, and especially with this album in particular, if it's too loud and heavy for you, if you're like, okay, I hear Metallica all the time, but I don't know what I'm supposed to do with it. I don't like listening to it. I'd highly recommend finding a classical instrument version of Master of Puppets.
Oh, that's a good idea.
There's a ton of them out there.
Yeah, there's a lot.
So like Apocalyptica are these, I think they're Finnish, Danish, whatever. Yeah. They're Scandinavian of some kind.
I'm going to apologize to our Scandinavian viewers. Yeah. It's not fucking whatever.
Yeah. Maybe they're from Helsinki. I don't know. But they play 4 cellos. They've done a bunch of Metallica songs. I think one album was all Metallica songs, actually.
Okay.
But there's also just generic string versions of all this stuff. But that is really, it's like the chaser to take the vodka shot that is Metallica, because you hear what we hear without
interesting,
without all the volume and the yelling.
Yeah, for sure.
Right. It's like why, like all I hear is this noise. Why do you think it's so great? It's like strip all that away. Yeah. Change the instrument. You're like, okay, now I get it. Because these songs, especially Master of Puppets, they're essentially symphonies. Right.
Yeah. There's different movements. Yeah. Right. Yeah. Absolutely.
It's just, if you don't like that noise, if you don't like guitars and you don't like the volume, you're not going to hear it. And that's fine. That's just personal preference.
Sure.
Just from a personal standpoint, I never understood, and I never for a second considered Ride the Lightning on this list. And I know for a lot of the older fans, they view Master Puppets and Ride the Lightning as interchangeable. I never understood that. I think Ride the Lightning, it had For Whom the Bell Tolls, Creeping Death, things that are staples of their catalog,
right.
But it just felt really immature. This one felt much more grown up than Ride the Lightning.
Gotcha.
Maybe it's because Ride the Lightning's album cover is fucking terrible.
It's pretty bad.
Yeah. But it was only, and again, it's just the time frame in which these things happened is another mindfuck. They're like a year apart.
Jesus.
And Justice for All was 2 years after that.
Okay.
And then the Black Album was 3 years after that. I mean, just in a blink, right? Like of what we're used to these days, of like albums come out 5 years apart or something.
Right. Wow.
I did have, speaking of, I had to exercise restraint leaving a Justice for All off this list. And I could definitely hear an argument that it's better than both of these albums.
Oh, interesting.
It's a different animal.
Yeah.
I do love that album.
It's my first Metallica album.
Yeah.
Was my entry point.
Yeah. And it's its own thing. And I could definitely, if someone said it's better than both of these, I wouldn't necessarily have a huge problem with it. But it's Master of Puppets. It's in the Library of Congress. And, it is what it is. Go check out Orion. Sit down, listen to it, put on headphones, maybe have yourself a beverage.
Yeah.
And it comes in at number 34.
Awesome. Now for something completely different.
Oh, shit. I got number 33 also.
Sure do.
All right. I'm going to have a sip of water.
It's not another spoiler alert.
No.
It's not another Metallica
and
album.
you can rest easy. That is it for the Metallica on the list, as you probably figured out, because Master Puppets is now coming on.
Right.
All right. Number 33. The Decemberists. With Picaresque.
Yeah.
I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right.
Yeah, because I picaresque or picaresque.
Okay.
Yeah.
Which I looked it up. It's a Spanish term, and it's for like a literary device for like a low social class person who's like cunning and thieving and clever.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, look it up. It seems remotely interesting.
That might have something to do with one particular character in the album.
Yeah. So this is one of the more tightly bunched we have in terms of our rankings. He had it at 41. I have it at 37 in a row. This album came out in 2005. This is one of the few albums in that time frame that end up on our list.
Oh, yeah.
Kind of bottom out in the early aughts. Jesus, early to mid aughts. The only song listed as a single, which I would have never fucking known. It's not like the Decemberists get played on the radio.
Right. College radio, maybe.
Yeah. But 16 Military Wives, which I love that song.
Yeah, there's a video for. I do remember the video for that.
That's a fun. If I had to describe the Decemberists in one word, jaunty.
Okay.
I think covers most. Did you know that? By the way, that album come out like 3 months ago.
Yeah, and I haven't even listened to it.
I haven't either.
It's weird.
So I'm going to go buy it and listen to it later.
Yeah.
The few tidbits I read, it sounds like it's a return to form.
Oh,
blah,
great.
blah, blah. So yeah, that's something to look forward to.
Yeah, they're usually described as being very literary as well. Colin Malloy, the lead singer, is a writer. He's written a number of children's books. And the vocabulary is at a very high level. There's words here used on this album that are not used in any other rock songs.
You're gonna have to bust out a dictionary at least once an album.
Absolutely.
But 16 Military Wives is a good. The Sporting Life is a fun, cheeky song. The Engine Driver, On the Bus Small. I love On the Bus Small. That's a great fucking It's a great fucking riff in the chorus for that. Kind of a haunting, kind of ethereal. So it's for us, and I guess for me, I guess I'm the slightly bigger Decemberist fan between the two of us.
Yeah, I think you are.
It was difficult picking albums for this list. They have a pretty impressive catalog. They're all good albums. So it's like, and we ran into this, and we'll talk about it in more length on the penultimate episode of this, where we talk about why certain albums got left off. And there are a lot of bands where it's like, okay, here's 7 good albums. We think they're all very good.
Right.
There's not much distinguishing them, so we have a choice to make. Are we going to ignore the band altogether? Are we going to put 7 albums on the list?
Right.
Or do we have to pick one?
Right.
And Decemberists
for sure
fell into that. We weren't going to put 5 Decemberist albums in the top 100, but it didn't seem right to leave them off. So it was sort of a look, we got to pick one. And, I think we felt this one was the best of the bunch.
Yeah, I think so.
But the whole catalog, pretty strong.
Yeah.
The Decemberists are really in their own lane.
For sure.
I still don't know exactly what their thing is, other than anachronistic songwriting.
Yeah.
I still don't know I don't know what universe the songs take place. Is it 1771?
I know. Is it down the road?
Right.
In
All
Portland?
of a sudden, there's a cell phone involved.
Right.
When is this happening?
Well, that should be said. For people who don't listen to them, they're story songs. This album
Yes.
is, I think, all like there's not a whole lot that is self-referential or
true.
autobiographical. He's writing stories, and there's different characters and different settings in every song.
Right.
Yeah.
There's one. Is it on this song where they end up inside a whale?
That's the Mariner's Revenge song. Is
Yes.
on this. That's might be my favorite December song.
Yes.
And I was thinking about this in preparation. I want to do karaoke.
Ooh.
It would be,
Doesn't that one have a female voice on it?
it does.
Like, tie him, tie him. I'll have to practice
Good
that.
drop. Yeah.
Dude, we have a whole bunch of songs we need to do at karaoke.
Yes.
And then have someone film it and put it on.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah. So no, fun random fact, which I like to give you, the listener, and watcher.
And viewer, yeah.
Yeah. To spur creativity, this was recorded in a church in Portland, which is the most Decemberist thing. And to pile on that, to spur creativity while recording, the band filled a bike helmet with little slips of paper with ideas to try out. Okay. And they just...
Why
not a bike helmet?
A bike helmet.
Yeah.
Should have a sticker of a bird on the side.
Yeah, they probably ate avocado toast while they were doing it. Had a almond milk latte.
So good.
So yeah, it's I think seeing the Decemberists at number 33 and ahead of some of all these other great albums, certainly Master of Puppets is one that comes to mind. It feels wrong, but right at the same time.
I agree.
Like it's a great album.
It's very reflective of us too.
Yes.
I think that, which is really nice. A high barrier to entry, I would say, on this. So
not easy.
If you give it a shot and you hate it, I think that's probably fine. It's not for you.
Yeah.
There may be other albums that are for you, that are less, right? There's lower barrier to entry to say like King is Dead.
Right.
Right. Okay.
Yep. But it's worth a little bit of work, and it's very summery music, summer and fall music too.
Absolutely.
Again, jaunty doesn't really fit well in the dregs of winter. So
No, it doesn't.
hurry up and give it a listen soon if you're going to do it.
That's right.
All right, that's number 33.
Okay. And then coming in at number 32, it's funny that I ranked this higher than you did.
Really?
Yeah. Under the Pink by Tori Amos.
Okay.
Yeah. And substantially higher, I think.
Yeah, but I have my reasons.
And I have my reasons as well.
Yes.
I think that's worth exploring. So, 32, Under the Pink by Tori Amos. We both agreed that this should be on the list. I ranked it at 25, which after the re-listen is a little high for me. I might split the difference. Tank had it at 53. I think if I had it in the 40s, that sounds a little more accurate to me. But hey, the list is the list at this point, right?
Right. It's in stone.
Yep. 1994, 12 songs, 56 minutes. It's her second album, right? Well, that's not including Why Can't Tori Read?
Yeah.
Right. So what I will, some personal memories of this, which seems to be the thing I'm doing here, at least for a couple of these albums. First, I think this was the first CD or any type of music media purchase I ever made of a female artist.
Wow.
Which took me till 1994. That's not
Misogynist
good.
prick.
Right?
Yeah.
I know I am an asshole. But I mean, I was 18?
Still.
Yeah, it's rough. That's rough.
I'm sticking a hole here.
Not good.
Yeah.
There was a girl on our sister floor who played it all the time. And then I bought the CD at Warehouse Records, I think, in East Lansing, which is a
Nice.
kick-ass record store.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah. Anyway, so much stronger first half of this album than a second half, I would say. It starts off great. Pretty Good Year, which has already been on a playlist challenge, which now I have to find and link to it over there. Good work. God is after that, which was like the big MTV sort of hit because it was so controversial. Like you can't say anything that's, which is so weird now, right?
Yeah.
Like, well, I guess people still can't, like Lil Nas X caught shit for dressing like a devil recently.
Yeah.
It's crazy. Bells for Hers after that, and then Past the Mission. I mean, that's a pretty great
Trent Reznor.
Trent Reznor. There you go. What I said, some things that really stand out. I mean, why I was drawn to it is apropos of all her albums, which is this balance of beauty and darkness, which is her very, very particular point of view, which is sometimes personal, sometimes just fucking bizarre fairy talk. Her weird pronunciation of words, sometimes just to make them rhyme, sometimes just because. Her weird word choice, like Cornflake Girl is like one of the more memorable songs off this album. And then in the chorus, it's a peel out the watchword. It's just fucking nonsense. Yeah. Apparently there is some meaning behind it. It's an old biblical saying or something like that, ironically enough.
Yeah, because her dad's a preacher.
There you go.
Or minister or whatever.
Yeah. So all that stuff, the mysteriousness, the mystery, I should say, how cryptic some of it is, mystical, fantastical, nonsensical, even at times. I just found it draws you in because it contrasts so much with the sort of symphonic it's not symphonic, but just how much of a prodigy she is at playing the actual piano, which is incredible. I don't know how much more I have to say about Under the Pink.
Yeah, I mean,
to be honest, I love it.
Yeah,
obviously, big shout out to Mrs. E, who this is a huge favorite of hers. She loves this album.
It does taper off in the second half. It finishes strong again with Space Dog and Yes Anastasia, which I'm at 48 now. I was still hoping to name my daughter Anastasia based on that.
Don't you have a friend named Anastasia?
Yeah. Shout out to AG.
Yeah.
She knows what's up. If I could go back in time, if I could have one date with anyone at any point in time, it would be like 1993 Tori Amos.
Okay, that's your wheelhouse.
Yeah, man. But I mean, Force of Nature at this point in time.
Absolutely.
Like, I don't know, Fiona Apple's the closest that we've gotten to it. But even then, I mean, the level of piano, what is it? Is it synesthesia? She sees music.
Okay.
And she's a freak of nature.
Yeah, the technical prowess is
combined with the raw emotion. I think she lost her way. I'll probably do a whole episode on that at some point in the future.
Yeah.
But man.
Yeah, but okay, so here's this thing to point out. Varied song structure. I was really impressed with. There's songs that are like reggae tinged until they get into the more traditional Tory song. There's a couple waltzes, like a lot like the Mariner's Revenge song. And so yeah, it's amazing what she can do with her sound, which seems so particular that it's this piano prodigy, but there's all sorts of other stuff going on. There's like I said, like Tank said, a Trent Reznor appearance, which is that just because she used the phrase 9 Inch Nails on the first album?
I think from what I understand, they had like a budding friendship.
Okay.
And they would hang out. So it's like, hey, Trent's here. Why not?
Yeah. Past the Mission's a great song.
Yes.
But yeah, so check it out. I mean, I feel like people don't talk about Tori a whole lot anymore.
No, it's a massive, and we talked about this when we saw what the final list would look like. Like, wow, that's pretty high, but it's like, it's exactly why we're doing this list.
Yeah.
Right. It's
to give shine to the stuff that's really important to us, both from a time period standpoint and just generally in informing our taste in music.
And, and this is a classic get off my lawn kind of moment, but again, Tori, it's been a pretty straight decline in terms of quality of stuff for a long time now. She's still putting out music. I largely ignore it now. I don't even go to the live shows anymore.
Oh, really? Yeah, that's right.
I mean, it's sad in a way, but there's no denying what it was at the beginning. And I also kind of get sad when albums come out present day and then people talk about what a great songwriter, what a great presence, all that. I'm like, no, like this is laughable next to something like Under the Pink, but yet it's passed as great today, but yet no one goes back. There was a bit of it with Kate Bush and running up that hill, the Stranger Things people.
Absolutely.
And by the way, now that I've, learned a little bit about Kate Bush, I heard the name all the time back in the day. I'm like, who the fuck is this Kate Bush? But now it's so very obvious how heavily influenced she was.
Sure.
So
that leads us to number 31, the last in today's list, which is Introducing by DJ Shadow. Yeah. This was a blind agree. We both said this should be on the list. I ranked it at 19. Pretty high.
Where did I put it?
55.
Well, I'm comfortable.
I like yours better than mine again. So this was a good re-listen. This was really fun. Introducing by DJ Shadow, 1996, 16 songs. And that's not true. That's not true. I don't think that's right.
What?
16 songs.
Well, what's debatable?
I don't think there's 16 songs on the album.
You keep talking. I'll look at it.
Yeah. Okay. An hour and 30 minutes long. It's his debut and it's like his most popular album by far. We've featured a song before on the playlist challenge. Again, now I'll have to fucking find that. It was Organ Donor, which is one of the standout tracks.
Love that song.
Yeah, I think that's on the medical playlist challenge.
That would make sense.
Because of Organ.
Yes.
I'll link to that over there.
A lot of links you got to put up for this
one. That's a lot of links I'm making for myself. Yep. It just shows how much great stuff that we've done already.
Yeah.
Available to you. Go back. And, subscribe.
It's all there.
But go back too. We got a lot of great stuff in our catalog. A note in that DJ Shadow left in the album says, this album reflects a lifetime of vinyl culture. And then he lists a few dozen innovators in DJ culture, which I think is what you should do, especially as a white DJ in 1996. This is an entirely instrumental hip hop album made 100% from samples. So he's in the Guinness Book of World Records for being the first album to do that. He doesn't think, actually, he thinks there were other albums that were made that were completely samples. But so you're thinking, so this is what the old man would say. Oh, they don't even play their own music. This is such a masterclass in taking other work, a lot of times non-musical work, and making it musical, and playing a sampler drum machine as an instrument.
Yep.
So incredibly impressive. So he used the Akai MPC 60 sampler. I mean, just the limitations, and they say limitations as far as creativity, like you need limitations. Often it makes you more creative in a way.
Right.
He could only sample 2.5 seconds of material at a time.
Wow.
And it could only store 13 seconds of that.
Could he loop it though?
He could loop it.
Okay.
So he could loop it infinitely. And he had a few tracks, like he had, I don't know how many tracks there are on that he could then program into it and then just mess around with it. So when you see DJs, like modern DJs behind doing this kind of stuff, they are playing drums that they have pre-programmed and sampled. A lot of times now it's not sampled. They're just like fake drum tracks from who knows, made from keyboards themselves. But this is all samples. So he's taking break beats and he's pulling out the beats and turning them inside out.
Yeah.
So it sounds like at times when you're listening to the album that he's just like, he's got a James Brown break beat and he's just letting it play. It's not. It's clearly not. He is taking individual drum hits and maneuvering them all over the place. And that's what's really cool. It becomes a jazz record at a lot of points in it where he's just messing up the flow and it's not traditional.
By the way, 13 tracks.
13 tracks. Okay. Yes. Yeah. Maybe there's probably an extended version of it.
That's the other annoying thing when you go far enough back. It's like so many reissues and digital releases. It's like, what was the fucking album?
Yeah. I have one right here, which has this giant fucking ad thing here, which is called the Moby strip. But, anyway.
And speaking of samples, fun little connection.
Yeah.
Number 31, this album.
Yeah.
On the number song, the main sample is from Orion.
I'm glad you mentioned that.
Album number 34.
I wrote that down as well. Yeah. You may be wondering, extended family member, you do an album that's entirely samples. How does that, like we talked about De La Soul in a previous episode and how though you couldn't get those albums for years because they couldn't clear those samples. It was such a crate digger that he didn't have to clear 98% of these samples. He didn't have to bother clearing because the record label didn't exist anymore or the band didn't exist anymore. Right. I mean, he's pulling 45s for some random soul record from 1953 or whatever. But he did have to clear Metallica and Bjork. There's another big Bjork sample. So it's experiment. I don't know where that was coming from. It's experimental. It's experimental and predictable.
Impenetrable.
But I like it. That great descriptor. See, I've already said it all. It's hip hop instrumentals, but it's weird. But it's also a jazz record at the same time. Yeah. So highly recommend.
And a lo-fi.
Yeah.
At times, like
absolutely
chill hop.
Yeah, you can absolutely. You can hear the crackle of the old sampled records. I imagine that a decent amount of our audience has not heard this record before.
Yes.
So this would be a great. Give it a shot. Tell us what you think about it in the comments.
Yep.
Fantastic. He's gone on to do combinations of instrumental records and then having guest vocalists. Famously, like there's a really great RTJ song on one of the record a few years ago. But I can't recommend this highly enough. So good. And introducing DJ Shadow, 1996.
Number 31 the final one on today's portion of the list. That's only 30 to go.
Gosh. Again, it's going to be good.
And they're even better than these.
Can you believe it? Even better. Check us out next week. We will have something different. We do this every other week to kind of spice things up. Check out last week's episode, which I'm sure was great.
Of course. Top quality.
The kind of stuff you can get from us. We do these countdowns, but we also challenge each other to listen to random songs on topics, which we call the playlist challenge. We react. We did a recent reaction to an old Vince Neil from Motley Crue video, which highly recommended. We had a blast making. I was crying. I was laughing so hard. Anyway, so we'll link to previous videos down below. Please like and subscribe and join us next time for some more extended play goodness. We love you. Goodbye.
Bye, folks.